Hey everybody, welcome to today's screencast on Sefer Yehoshua, where today we'll take a look at how Yehoshua designated special cities in chapters 20 and 21. These cities included the cities of refuge, known as the Arei Miklat, as well as cities for the levi'im to live in. We'll finish with a quick look at the city Yehoshua chose for himself and how this teaches us about how leaders ought to behave. But first, the Ir Miklat, which is pointed to in this picture by the arrow in the center of your screen. Before we take a closer look at what's happening in the scene, let's learn some basic terms to help us better understand the topic. So an Ir Miklat literally means city of refuge. Refuge can mean a few things like shelter or protection or escape. Now you might have heard the phrase refugees before when you've read about or heard about war. The Ir Miklat is a city that is home to people looking to escape. Escape from what? That brings us to the second term, which is rotzeach. A rotzeach is a person who has committed murder accidentally with no criminal intent. After he murders someone, the rotzeach has to run away and seek refuge in one of these Arei Miklat. Now why is that? That brings us to the third term you need to know, and that's go el adam, which refers to a relative of a person who was murdered. Now the relative is obviously very upset that the rotzeach killed his or her family member and wants to take revenge by killing the rotzeach. So that's what you're seeing here in this picture. The rotzeach, located just beneath the Ir Miklat sign, is running away from the Goel Hadam, located at the edge of the screen. Now the Goel Hadam is armed and dangerous, and unless the rotzeach can find refuge in the city quickly, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Think of an Ir Miklat as a base in baseball. As long as you're on the base, you can't get tagged out. But once you move off the base, like you see over here in this picture with the great Rickey Henderson, Hall of Famer for the Oakland A's, you better be quick or else you're in trouble. That's because once you're off the base, you're fair game. That's why the rotzeach has to head for the Ir Miklat as quickly as possible. If he doesn't get to home base soon, he'll be out for good. So let's take a quick look at some of the laws regarding the rotzeach now that we know a little bit about the context of what's happening in our parak. So like we said, the rotzeach refers to a person who killed accidentally without any signs of carelessness. It surely was an accident. Once a rotzeach makes it into the Ir Miklat, it's like being on home base. He's safe and cannot be touched. The thing is, the rotzeach cannot leave the Ir Miklat until the Kohen Gadol dies, which sounds a little bit strange, and we'll have to talk more about that when we get back to class. Now, it doesn't matter which Ir Miklat the rotzeach goes to, even if it's one that is not located closest to him. The rotzeach, so long as he heads to an Ir Miklat, no matter where it's located, is safe so long as he doesn't leave the city. Now, this is actually a perfect connection to our next topic, the cities that the levi'im received in Eretz Canaan. Now, remember, Moshe actually designated 3 Arei Miklat during his lifetime. These were located to the eastern side of the Jordan River, as you can see popping up on your screen, in the territories of Reuven, Gad, and half of Manasseh. The other 3 were located on the western side of the Jordan. What you have over here on the western side are Kadesh, Shechem, and Hebron, and on the eastern side, Golan, Ramat Gilad, and Bezer. Now these 6 cities of refuge, the Arei Miklat, also happen to be the cities where the levi'im lived. In other words, 6 of these cities that the levi'im received were also cities of refuge. 42 other cities were just cities that they had received with no other special designation. So out of 48 total cities that the levi'im received to live in, 6 of them were cities of refuge and doubled not only as the home for the levi'im, but also as the places for people to escape to if they committed accidental murder. Now take a look at this map. Notice how the Arei Miklat are spread out throughout the lands conquered by the other tribes. Now the tribe of Levi didn't actually fight any battles and therefore didn't receive any land, and this was intentional. Because Shevet Levi, made up of the Kohanim and the Levi'im, dedicated their time to serving God, they weren't expected to own land and to take care of it, since this would distract them from serving Hashem. Instead, what we have here is a quid pro quo. In exchange for doing the religious rituals for the people, for the nation, Shevet Levi gets a place to live in and food to eat, all courtesy of the other nations. So when it's all said and done, you have 3 tribes or three sections, I should say, in Shevet Levi. The section of Kahat, the section of Gershon, and the section of Merari. And each of these families within Shevet Levi receives cities to live in. As you can see, Kahat had 23 cities, which included 2 Arei Miklat. Gershon had 13 cities, which included 2 Arei Miklat. And Merari had 12 cities, which included 2 Arei Miklat. And these cities that they lived in, some of which also became Arei Miklat cities as well. Finally, today, let's take a look at one final aspect of Perak Chav Aleph, which is the land that Yehoshua designates for himself, which you can see located in the center of your screen, a land known as Timnat Serach. It happens to be a mountain region located in the hill country in Ephraim's territory, which makes sense since Yehoshua comes from Shevet Ephraim. And today we call this city Timnat Cheres. It's located northwest of the modern-day city of Ariel in the Shomron. Now, we're going to talk in class about why Yehoshua chose to assign himself land only after the rest of the nation had received theirs, and why he chose Timnat Serach in particular. There's some very interesting reasons for this, and some important lessons that we'll learn as well. But when we get back to class, there are a few things we have to cover in addition to looking at some of those other issues. We have to take a moment to consider why we forced the murderer, the Rotzeach, to go to a city of refuge. Is it for him, or is it possibly for someone else's benefit? Now, why does the Rotzeach have to remain in the city until the Kohen Gadol dies? It seems like an awfully strange connection. What does one have to do with the other? And finally, why were all the lands of the levi'im spread out? Shouldn't they be banded together so that they're all kind of clustered in the same place? These are some of the questions we'll consider when we get back to class. Looking forward to learning with you when we return.